Hello, my fellow PMPs, my techs, my peeps. How's it going? Today, this is Daniel from the D&A Pest Control Podcast. Guys, technicians, I didn't actually congratulate Tom Brady on his 7th Super Bowl win. Love him or hate him, the guy gets it done. That's crazy. I mean, he's killing it. 43 years old. It's crazy to think he's still going, and he still looks pretty good. He looks good out there. I mean, they had a rough start, but they look good. So any football fans out there, or even Chiefs fans, don't hate the player, okay? Don't hate the player. Actually, I think the Chiefs are going to do really, really good. I think Mahomes is going to be scary good in a few years. I don't think he's at his prime yet. I think he's still making a few rookie mistakes, even though he's had a phenomenal year. But I think in those clutch times, he kind of chokes and he kind of goes back to rookie moves. Throwing that ball, even though he threw it pretty dang good, falling, you don't throw that ball in the air like that. You know it's going to get picked off. Stuff like that's going to happen. Either way, I'm not a huge fan of NFL anyway. I mean, I am a fan, but I'm not a massive fan. I prefer college football. But I do want to say congrats to the Tampa Bay Bucks. They did awesome. Gronk, Antonio Brown, Brady, I can't believe that. They did a good job. So today is Free Talk Friday, and I am going to clarify a few things. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story, how I got in the pest control industry, but I also wanted to thank everyone who's been sending messages, who's been checking out the Instagram. We started this about a year ago, this podcast. Actually, I think about a year ago this month. I have to go back in and check. But I am honestly so grateful for everybody who's been listening, who has enjoyed this podcast, who has learned from this podcast, even from the ones who hate the podcast and who have listened. I want to thank you for at least those downloads. It's awesome to see that, and especially thank you for everybody who's been reaching out to us. I had a guy from Terminex in Oregon. I know he's going to listen, and sorry I haven't responded to your email. Between COVID, running a business, and throwing out episodes, I do need to respond, and I will. He knows who he is. Also, a few things popped up on Instagram, and I'm going to hit one especially. We had a good conversation, and I actually had a whole nother Free Talk Friday plan for today, but I think this will be good. I think this will be good for that person who did message me. So a little bit about me is I originally, I did door-to-door sales. Okay, so graduated 18, not even a week later. I think I graduated on it's such a random day. I think it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday. And that Friday I was gone. Okay, moved out of my house. I went to go sell. I went to go knock doors in California. Fast forward about, 18 to 20, so probably about 6 years. Came back out to California to knock doors and actually work for my brother-in-law and in his pest control company, which now I own. Okay, so kind of jumping around, but I wanted to talk about this because I think some of you may feel I have kind of pushed and discouraged technicians from starting their own business. And that's not what I wanted to get at. my main point at not starting a business is this, and I will explain up to that, okay? So going back to my story, I know I'm jumping around a little bit. So I started actually working and knocking doors back in 2014. I sold probably 100 and something accounts over those 4 or 5 months or whatever. And right at the end of that summer, we had a really good summer. It actually wasn't bad. Pretty good for me because I wasn't used to knocking doors and selling pest control, but I actually was used to knocking doors and selling home security systems. I did that for a company called Pinnacle. And so I had the experience. I came out, me and my brother-in-law negotiated. He had a whole team of like 30 guys. And finally I said, okay, you know what? Here's some of the things I'm requiring. You got to come pick me up. You got to bring my motorcycle. I had a motorcycle at the time. I said, you got to pick me up. You got to pick my motorcycle up, drive me out to California, and then I'll do it. And then there was some payment things in there. But so we ended up doing that, had a great summer. At the end of the summer, he actually partnered up with a guy who did pest control sales previous to that year. This guy had a little bit different vision. He wanted to go very small. He wanted to start very small. He didn't want to do a big sales team. He didn't want to do a big sales push. And my brother-in-law is the exact opposite. He was a big dreamer. He was, we're going to be doing $50 million in sales in 5 years. We're going to grow. We're going to be in 20 different cities. I mean, he had this massive plan, but he didn't have the guys around him to do it, unfortunately. He owns other businesses, and he's doing great at those other businesses. But him and this guy partnered up, and come the end of that summer, this partner just got up and left. I had a family vacation, which is kind of funny to say about my brother-in-law, but he wasn't there for that. But so I went on my family vacation, not with my sister or brother-in-law. And then coming back, it was kind of a rude awakening to be like, okay, he's gone. And I kind of was in this weird position to kind of control the team and kind of be over everybody. Even though I had the experience, it was still a little weird just because he got up and left. And he didn't really tell anybody. And then come to find out a couple weeks later, he came out and started this massive thing. He hated my brother-in-law for whatever reason. The guy made really good money. He owned 25% of the company, but he decided to walk away from it. Just gone. See you later. Bye. And so I got thrown into that position. Brother-in-law pulled me in, said, hey, I want to keep going with this. Do you want to be the sales manager? Of course I jumped on it. I always wanted to be an owner of a company. I didn't know what company. I didn't know when, and I didn't know how. And now this was my opportunity to step up into that position. So my passion was not actually pest control. I had zero passion in the pest control industry. And to be 100% honest, I didn't even know it existed. Okay? I had no idea. I had a guy walking around my house one time spraying, and I didn't even think anything of it. We used to just say the Spider-Man. That was it. That was the spider guy. He came and sprayed for spiders. Now, knowing what I know, he sprayed for a lot of other things, but we would always just say, oh, we got a spider. My mom would call some dude. He'd come out. I only saw him once, ever. So after getting thrown into that position of sales and everything, so I went out and knocked doors. Through the whole knocking career that I had here for about 3 years, 4 years actually, about 3 to 4 years, I added on a pretty big chunk of accounts, brought the company where it is today, or when it was back then when I originally bought it. But through that whole process, I was asking a ton of questions. I always pulled different techs aside. I just picked their brain. When they were at my services, I was going and talking to them at my clients' houses that I just signed up. I would talk to them, figure out what's going on, ask questions, because I'd have random people asking me random things. I'd be knocking a door and they have problems with mosquitoes. Well, what do you guys do for mosquitoes? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm sure we can take care of it. And I just did the sales thing. And then eventually, the technician actually would explain what was going on and what we do for cockroaches. If you haven't listened to the episode I put out this week, go back and listen to cockroaches. It's going to explain everything, how to take care of them the right way and the biology of one of the cockroaches, the Derman cockroach. But go back and listen to it if you haven't. Because when I was originally taught everything on those from one tech, it was, oh yeah, that's easy. We just have to come out and spray the house once a month. No, that's not how you do it. It's not how you take care of them. You'll never get rid of them. From other technicians, I grew to learn other techniques and other services, which helped a lot more, but I still had to tweak it. I still had to do some things later on. But I learned that whole process. I started to grow a passion for it. And eventually when we kind of stepped away from the salesman thing, because it's a lot of money. So if you're looking to do door-to-door sales and you own your own company, be prepared to spend a ton of money, put up a ton of money up front. You have to if you want a decent sized team, or find a small team that's really, really good, and then you don't have to spend as much money. You'll be spending more in commission than you will in housing and everything like that. So anyway, we moved away from that, and we had a few technicians that didn't like me stepping into the ownership position, or even a little bit over the technicians. I was ordering chemicals. I relieved a guy of that duty. Also, kind of overseeing what they were doing and how they were doing things, and they did not like that. I started taking my tests. I got a branch 2, which here in California I did cover that in a previous episode. But you have your applicator's license, branch 1, branch 2, branch 3, and operators. Branch 1, 2, and 3 are just different categories. 2 is not better than 1, 1 is not better than 2, 3 is not better than 2 or better than 1. It's just different categories, okay? So I got my branch 2, which is general pests. You can take care of just a general pest. You can't take care of wood-destroying organisms. Neither can you tend to home. Those are different licenses, okay? So I got my branch 2, which got me even more into the technician position, okay? Which I did not mean to rhyme. I'm not Dr. Seuss. But I got into it a little bit more, and I started running my own route. And this is kind of what pushed me to start this podcast in the first place, and who, really jumped on this idea was I would go to these techs and I would ask them, what's going on? Like, how do I do this certain thing? What do I do? How do I do it? And it never worked out. And so what happened, they just wouldn't explain anything. I shouldn't say it didn't work out. They just wouldn't explain everything. Everything was a secret. Everything was hidden. Everything was, you got to go out and get a year's experience. You need to get 6 months experience. But do I? Isn't there books that explain what you can do? Don't the labels tell you how to treat for certain pests? They do. They do teach you that. There is no secrets in the pest control industry. There may be certain techniques, but how you take care of an insect, you only have so many products you can do. Or if you're following the IPM program, or you're doing more of an eco-friendly service, there may be other techniques there on sealing certain things up and cleanliness, sanitation. But there's so many things you can do, and that's about it. There's not really much more in depth, unless you're pulling something out of some other industry and using that. But these guys did not want to tell me anything. It was really weird. Everything was experience. You need to go out, you need to go spray, you need to do this, you need to do that. And I didn't agree with that, but I did it anyway. And so after about 6 months of running a route, picking the brains of these technicians, because I had to go run with them as well. So I learned everything. I grew into it. I eventually got my operator's license, and the company was now being run underneath my operator's license, which at that point I was actually offered to buy the business. Well, maybe it was a little bit before I purchased the business. or after I purchased the business, I got my operator's license. But at that point, my brother-in-law kind of saw he didn't have any licenses. He didn't have anything, no ties into the industry whatsoever. But he then opened up and kind of said, hey, look, do you want to buy the business? We sat down and ate. And right when he said it, I jumped all over it. I said, yes. And he kind of was taken back by it. And he was like, whoa, do you want to buy like all of it? And I was like, yep, 100%. Zero hesitation, 100%. Don't need you in this at all. And he was really kind of thrown back for it. I think he wanted me to keep him around. He was the bank account at that time, but we didn't need him. We didn't need a bank account. We didn't need a bank. We didn't need loans. The business was doing great. We just had to cut some fat. We already had a decent amount of clients. We had enough people that were, that we could run. And so I got into it. I started operating it. I started running everything. I was over a technician that was in the industry 10 years longer than I was, which was kind of hard, but we made it work. Eventually, we got somebody else on. He ended up leaving back east, and from there, the rest is history. I've been running the company ever since. But since I've been running the company, I've had a lot of time to reflect on past technicians, and I've seen a lot of other companies, especially knocking doors. I've switched over. I can't tell you how many hundreds of accounts from other companies. Now I have taken over restaurants from companies, big companies. I have taken their accounts from them. We do some franchises. So there's some stuff, that I have learned over these years from being a business owner, from being a salesman, from being a technician, that now I am using and implementing into my own business. And so what I wanted to tell everybody who's ambitious, who wants to start their own company, who wants to get into this, who wants to really create something, you can do it. You just got to be careful. And I saw this at a guy. I was going to buy his company last year, and me and him were going back and forth. I did a few podcasts, I think, on him. One of the things that was a big shocker is he jumped from one of these companies, these massive companies. He decided to start his own company, and when he started his own company, I think he thought it was just going to explode because he was a technician. He knew everything. There's a lot more to running a business than just being a tech. There's a lot more to running a business than just running a route. There is a lot into it. And so if you're prepared and you're willing and you're accepting that, then do it. But you have to learn those things. You can't just jump into, starting a business thinking that it's just like running a route. It's not like running a route. You have the whole office and admin. Like, I just went through an ag hearing. When are you going to have time to go do an ag hearing when you're out running a route? You can't. You can't do that. You're not going to be able to take half a day off, a full day off. I mean, unless you don't have any accounts to do. But if you do, you can't do that. You can't take that, that time. That's massive. When I first started, owning, I was working 6 days a week. I was working 9, 10, 11, 12 hours a day. I had multiple technicians telling me, oh, you work too much. You got to stop working. You got to stop working. You got to stop working. No, I don't have to. Don't worry about me and my family. We're on the same page. I'm open with them. Worry about you. I have to worry about the business because the business pays you, pays me, pays the secretary, pays everybody. So I have to worry about that. And if I have to put in 12 hours, I'll put in 12 hours. If I have to put in 14, 18, 20, if I have to go and do restaurants midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm doing that. I still do it today. So I'm still out there running everything. But that's not all of it. Okay? Because even when I wasn't doing a 10, 12 hour day in the field, I was putting that back into the office where a lot of people overlook. A lot of techs don't understand the background of it. And then what happens is when they start something And this is what I'm going to get into, answering that question that me and this person were talking to about, because they felt a little discouraged on me saying, don't start a company. Start it. Do it. I think it's a great idea, but do not half-ass that work. Do not start a company, one, thinking it's just going to be a route, and don't start a company just trying to get by or creating, this idea that, there has to be something more behind it. We have been changing the industry here in California at my business. We have been changing things. We have implemented new things that no other company does. We have created new contracts, new ways to service apartment complexes. We have created those things. We are changing those things because the industry needs to grow. We need to grow. We have to. We're such an old industry, and we have yet to change and be something better, which we can be. And the person I was going to buy the business from, he got into it. He started his own company. He did a lot of different things. And now when I asked him, okay, well, do you treat for bed bugs? No, we don't. Okay. Do you treat for rodents? Well, we put out bait stations. Okay, but do you do exclusion work? Nope, we don't do exclusion work. You won't touch anything on a house? Nope. We'll put up traps and we'll put bait stations. That's it. Okay. Do you do cockroach treatments? No cockroach treatments. We don't do that at all. Okay. So what do you do? I know that you do pest control, but I mean, like, that's it? That's all you're doing? You just go spray houses, take down some webs, and you leave? Yep, that's it. We don't do anything else. We give all that work to other people. And he lost that passion. That's why he wanted to sell it. He thought in 6 years, he was going to have this massive company, and it was still him running his own business. So don't get discouraged on starting your own business, but also you can't lose that passion. You got to keep doing what you've been doing in the big company. You have to do, everything you can to keep that image of us high. Big companies, unfortunately, they hire so many people. Some of the techs are just a bunch of bums, and they don't do anything. And that's okay. It's not okay, but it's okay because there's nothing I can do about it. But the ones who are listening to this podcast aren't those bums. I know they're not, because they'd stop listening right away, because they would identify themselves and they would know exactly, I'm that guy who does nothing. I don't go ahead. I don't jump. I don't do things. I stay right where I am. I run my route. I go home. I'm done. So if you're going to start your own company, do it the right way. You got to be able to know you have to put in the time to gain business, and you have to put in the time to keep that business and those clients happy. And it's going to be rough in the beginning, because I was that guy knocking doors, starting a company. It wasn't my company at the time, but I went out and knocked the doors. Luckily, we had a bank account. We had a bank, that kept putting money in. And to be completely honest, he put in about $450,000 into it. So just to give you an idea of how much money was put into the business to grow it for 3-4 years until I took over. And then there was no more money getting put. I mean, money got put back into it, but there was no bank giving us money. Once I jumped in, I cut all that fat and we created something. There was substance there. There was no substance there. That's why we never took off before. We were kind of a mediocre company because we had a lot of these techs who worked for these massive companies that weren't taught anything very well, or they created their own idea of how to do the least amount of work, thinking that it was the best quality, and it wasn't. So anybody who has listened to my past episodes, I do want to officially apologize and say I did not mean to discourage anybody from starting their own company, but I am discouraging those who are not willing to put in the work and not willing to be the best tech that they can be, to create a solid company, to create something with substance behind it. And even today, the only reason why I think some of these massive companies are staying massive is because they just have a bank behind them. They have somebody shoveling money to buy more accounts, buy up these little companies that I'll be honest, I know a ton of people who started companies and just sold them off. And I had a guy working for me when I purchased the company. Before I purchased the company, he was working here. And he owned his own pest control company. And he actually had to get a second job. He had to work at Walmart because he wasn't willing to sell. He wasn't willing to go out there and do that work. So, you know who you are. You know what I'm talking about. You're the one who asked. So start your own company. Be that person who breaks off and creates something. That's awesome. Your boss is willing to, give you those opportunities to do certain things like the IPM, and start growing from there. But if you can see that you can tweak things and change things and he's not willing to listen to you and he's not willing to do that for you, absolutely break off. Just be prepared to spend a little bit of money. Be prepared to be patient and put in a ton of work to grow that, grow your pest control business. Because once you do, you are going to get to a good spot where people start to recognize who you are, and you'll just start gaining more and more and more and more and more. And the customers that you do have are going to stay super loyal. We actually still have customers, actually a decent amount from when I first signed them up. And what's funny is I still go out there. I actually knocked their door. I signed them up. And now, actually, I went through and I did all the tech work. So I actually sprayed their houses for a couple of years. And now sometimes I get to go back and I get to see those customers and spray their houses again. And it's always nice to see that they've been on, for 6 years, going on 7. So it is fulfilling. It is really cool to see. But don't be discouraged with what I say. I hope it puts the fear in you. I hope it scares you a little bit, because it is scary when you get into it. But if you put your mind to it, you think you can do it, you can do it. I have your back 100%. I even messaged you back. I'm a business owner. Ask me questions. I'm here to help. And when you get that business going, call me. I'd love to hear how it went. I love to hear the process. I love to hear all that. Business is my passion, my first passion. Pest control is my second. And so I kind of got into this industry totally by a fluke, weird accident. But I'm here now, and I turned it into my passion, and I turned it into my love. And now I'm turning it around and hopefully helping you guys out, on what to do, how to do things, and you know what? Some things I do, I may be completely wrong, and you guys may even know that, that I'm full of it, but it's worked for me. And so if it hasn't worked for you, maybe you need to tweak it a little bit. We'll work it out. But I hope this helped. I hope this episode was able to clarify that I'm not against starting your own pest control business. I am if you're a bum. I am if you're not willing to put in the work. And I am if you are only willing to do the bare minimum basic. I am not for that. And if you were close to me, I'd be taking over your business. Because we're going to go above and beyond. We're going to go further. So just keep that in mind. You can do it. You're more than capable of doing anything. And thanks for reaching out to me with that question. And I hope this episode helped a ton. Also, for everybody else, thanks for listening in. Please message me, DM me on Instagram. I will get back to you. Me personally, I will message you. You just got to send the message. Let me know what topics you want me to talk about. If there's anything you want to know about me or about the industry or anything, just let me know. Also, there was a guy who put us up on his story with the cockroaches episode. Thank you so much. I don't have your name, or I would shout you out. I'm going to look it up. Hold up. Let me see here. I'm going to get him on. Edwin. Thank you, Edwin, for putting that on your story. I love the pictures. Kill them cockroaches. Those are nasty buggers. But thank you for putting us up on your story, and thanks for listening in, everybody. You texts are amazing, and thanks for showing us the love. DM me on Instagram at DNA Pest Control Podcast. Also, we are on Gmail at DNA Pest Podcast at gmail.com. Email me. Also, once again, I didn't forget the Terminex guy. Okay, he's been in the industry 20 years. I'm going to reach back out to you. We're going to get you on. But thanks for listening, everybody. I hope you have an amazing weekend. See ya.